Spurs. What a week. What a week, George. A couple of weeks really. Out of the FA Cup, beaten by Wolves, dumped out of the Champions League. Your manager doesn't want to stay. Your star £60 million signing is calling your season shit. Talk to me, bruv. Talk to me.
Yeah, man, the season's gone to shit. It really has. The season has gone all tits up. There's really not much to look forward to. Top 4, I'd throw that in the bin right now because there's nothing to look forward to if I'm being honest.
You can still get there. Have some hope, man. Have some belief.
But it's not even about wanting. I don't want top 4 at this stage. I don't care about top 4.
What's the point?
Let's be honest. Like this season, as I said, when I went into this season, I aimed for a trophy. We're now out of all the trophies. The teams we went out of the trophies to: Nottingham Forest, Sheffield United, and AC Milan. All teams that were easily beatable. That AC Milan team, they would not beat any other top 4 club. Let top 6 club in this Premier League. They're horrible. They had a 38-year-old Giroud up front causing us issues. There's nothing to look forward to, honestly. Conte, he wants to leave. Kane, he's 1 foot out. I mean, yeah, man, Tottenham's just it's a comedy show right now. Saturday Night Live tomorrow. That's pretty much what we're going to be at away at Nottingham Forest. So, yeah, hopefully some changes can happen, and who knows what's going to happen with Spurs going forward. Who knows?
So are you Conte out then?
I'm not. That's the thing. I'm really not.
What?
I don't blame this on Conte. What I blame is that we have these same players letting us down. I don't know if you guys seen the stat. You're not amongst Tottenham Twitter, but over about past the last 7 years, every time we've gone out in the cup to a team lower than us, either Dyer, Davies, or Sanchez have been a part of the back line. It's the continuous rollover of these players that we continue and giving new contracts to. The worst ones, Dyer, Davies. Like, how they've been at this club for so long. I can't keep blaming a manager, Conte, who's a defensive manager, when he hasn't got the defensive tools. He's not got the players to do the job. I do agree that he has to take blame. The other day, there's no excuse against Sheffield. There's no excuse against AC Milan. And there's simply no excuse that when there's 10 minutes left in the Champions League tie, 10 men, you bring on another centre-back. Like that, there's nothing more defensive than that. And at that point, that substitution was pretty much throwing away his job. He said, I don't want this. I don't want to go far. I'm going to throw this back in. And he laughed at us.
Was Danjuma not on the bench as well?
On when we need a goal.
Was Danjuma on the bench at that point as well?
Danjuma was on the bench. We had, I believe, maybe even Lucas Moura on the bench. It's just we had options. He chose not to go with those options. He chose to bring on a centre-back when we're chasing a game, a big Champions League.
So how does he blame Conte then if he does that?
The season, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. But I don't blame the downfall of Tottenham on him. I blame it on the players, the same players. And do you know what? Harry Kane, man. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and defend him after that. Like, there's absolutely no chance. You call yourself world class. You've been going on all these years being one of the best strikers in world football, and you've got an easy game against. Let me not say easy. You've got a game against AC Milan. Let's be real. Tomori, who was partnering him?
I think it's Kalulu, I think.
Kalulu, and they're not
CEO. The guy for like half finished.
They're young players breeding through, and you expect Harry Kane, like someone who's 30 years old, to go there, bully them, and take the chance, take the game by the scruff of the neck, and make something happen. Get a goal, create some chances, and he was non-existent. He had 1 or 2 chances where you thought, oh, it's looking good, but it just wasn't good enough from Harry, not good enough from Son. The big players didn't turn up, the manager didn't do his job, and it was just a shit show. It was a complete shit.
So George, I want you to confirm this. So you're confirming on the terrace right now that Harry Kane, aka the tree trunk, isn't world class?
No, I never said he isn't world class. That's not what I said. I said that I blame him. He does take a lot of blame for the loss at AC Milan. He takes a lot of blame for the downfall of Spurs over the season. How can a world-class striker not have a shot on target though?
Yeah. How can a world-class striker not have a shot on target?
He did have a shot on target. He had a header. He did have a header, I do remember.
Yeah. Why do you call him the tree trunk? Sorry to interject. I just need to know that. What's that from?
He plays like a tree trunk, so I call him the human tree trunk. So.
I didn't know where it was from, so I was confused.
It makes no sense. I mean, look, one thing you said about Harry Kane compared to most number 9s, he's fairly mobile. He can pass. He's got good feet. This guy's not He's not Lukaku. So this is weird. You call Harry Kane a tree trunk, basically saying he's a rubbish footballer, but yet you thought Lukaku was so good, you nicknamed him Luke Skywalker.
Have you seen Luke Skywalker's touch? Luke Skywalker's touch ain't bad. Look, he ain't great and so forth, but look,
You're
Kane
mad.
look, Kane has
You're
improved.
mad.
No. See, Jordan, you're being too easy on Tottenham. See, Jordan, it's very simple here.
I'm being
For
easy.
some reason, I don't know whether it's your dad. I don't know whether it was your mom, whether your dad took you when you were young and everything. Tottenham, with all due disrespect, they are losers. They're a loser club. And the person to blame the most is Levy. Levy is a businessman. He doesn't care about winning. All he cares about is, I need to lease this stadium out for NFL, F1, Hollywood, whatsoever, carousel. He doesn't care about football results. So you are breeding a club that has a mentality of losers. And do you know why I have no sympathy for you? This is called football karma, aka football heritage. The greatest manager of all time, the greatest footballing figure of all time, the reason why football exists, Mourinho, he took you to a final, and what did that clown of a chairman do? He sacked him before he played that final.
The thing
you are
is, though,
suffering from karma. You are suffering
the thing
from
is,
football
H,
karma.
we all agree, all Tottenham fans would agree that the problem starts with Levy.
Yeah.
But I personally, I ain't gonna come and sit here and complain about Levy every week when I know my team, despite all the problems with Levy, my team was good enough to go out there and win the game. We had a better team than AC Milan, a better team than Wolves, a better team than Sheffield United.
No, but it comes from the
team
top
on the
of Jordan.
pitch
It comes from
was
the
good
top
enough
of
to
it.
go out there and win the game. So I blame the players and the manager.
It does come from
They
the top.
have to take their accountability.
It does come from the top. You're right for like the overall failures at Tottenham. But even when look, I'm someone who's blamed the Glazers for a lot of where we are. However, when we've played games at home against Burnley's and not won, that individual game is down to those players because Spurs haven't got a good enough squad to win the Premier League or win the Champions League. But they have a good enough squad to beat Sheffield United. They have a good enough team to beat Wolves. They have a good enough team, in my opinion, to beat AC Milan. There is issues there with some of these players. There's definitely an issue with the manager, which is why he needs to be looked at. On Harry Kane, listen, I'm more than gladly take him off your hands at Man United. Very, very happy to do that personally. He needs to get away from there. But the talk is, Flawless, that Luis Enrique is going to come in. Now, I think he's recognized by most of the top manager. Do you think someone like Luis Enrique could change the fortunes of Tottenham, or is anyone that goes in there doomed?
Anyone, it depends on what you're trying to hit. Like, I think a manager is good enough, a quality manager is good enough to go into Spurs and win an FA Cup or a League Cup. And I'm guessing George and Spurs fans would take both arms off anybody for that. So in that essence, yes. Is it Luis Enrique? I don't know. He did very well at Barcelona. What has he done outside of there to go and say he's the guy? Is he going to get the money to go and compete? Like, that's what it is. Because the Spurs squad, we all know, isn't good. It's not good enough to win the Premier League. It's not good enough to win the Champions League. But like I said, domestic cups should be targeted. And the fact that they went out to Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest, that's nothing to do with Levy. That's on Conte, and that's on them players. Go look at Conte's domestic cup record. People really like to sweep it under the rug. It's not good. He has, for all the teams he's managed that have won leagues, so whether it's over here with Chelsea, whether it's in Italy with Juventus, I think he's got one Coppa Italia and one FA Cup, and he's never won a double. But people want to blame the players. Yes, we know the squad is short, 110%. But you have to look at Conte. I'm looking at Conte bringing on a defender when you need a goal, and you're literally one goal away from extra time. Literally. And they didn't. I'm watching the last bits of the game, 10, 15 minutes, and Spurs haven't thrown the kitchen sink at it. And if you're watching that on mute, you'll think Spurs were ahead. But that comes from the manager. Conte plays defensive football. But is Luis Enrique the guy? I'm not sure, because he's going to want to go in there and play a certain way. And the players Spurs currently have can't play that way. So then are they going to spend 200, 300 million? Bear in mind, all the other top 6 clubs are going to probably spend money as well. So I don't think Luis Enrique is the answer. I think they need a project manager. Poch going back there makes sense.
Yeah, literally, you literally said what I was actually going to say. I mean, Pochettino is Tottenham. Tottenham thought they got too big for their boots, because why was Pochettino sacked? Because they thought, okay, new stadium now, we're now a big club. Let's bring in Mourinho to try and win something. Let's bring in Conte to try and win something. Not knowing that you've got the loser's gene. So if you've got the loser's gene, someone as great as Nkumu, he can't override the loser's gene. Bring in Pochettino, as my man said, a project manager. and just build with him. You should have never sacked Pochettino. Pochettino and Tottenham were a marriage made in heaven. Look, when Pochettino went to PSG, it didn't work. Pochettino, his mindset and what he's about goes well with what Tottenham are about. And you just have to hope and pray that maybe you get a trophy. But the reality, though, is with how this has ended up, Kane is off. He's gone. Like, right now, because as I think Terrace said this like some shows ago, he is going, with what has happened, he's going to Man United. So for Tottenham right now, Conte is out, Kane is out. What do you now do going forward for Tottenham? Because you won't have Kane. Do you now go back for Poch? I mean, Jose, let me ask you, you're the Tottenham guy. Do you go back for Poch? Do you now risk it to lose Enrique, who needs specific players to now?
The thing is, both of them do both of them need new players. The thing is, when Pochettino was on his way out, he was the guy calling for a rebuild. He said, we need new players, we need new faces. He wanted to get rid of Dyer, he wanted to get rid of Sanchez, and he wanted to get rid of a lot of these players that we still have. My problem with Poch coming back is I don't want him to come back and feel a loyalty to these players, similar to how Klopp is, and be like, these were my players, I'm going to try and make it work with them. We can't do that. Tottenham need a lot of change. And if Poch does come back, he needs to reinvigorate the squad. He needs to bring in a whole load of players, a whole load of new players, and he needs to play his way, similar to what Luis Enrique would. Luis Enrique is my number one personally. Like I said, he does need a lot of new players to come in to play his way, but I'm not being funny. The last 3 managers we've had defensive football. The first things first, I just want to fall in love with watching Tottenham again. Right now, watching Tottenham is so boring. It's boring. I sit there, I literally fell asleep during the Sheffield game. The Wolves game, I fell asleep during that game. I'm being honest, I fell asleep at half time during Wolves. I fell asleep and I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to go back and watch it. I was like, we lost 1-0. I don't want to go back and watch it. It's pointless because
you literally went from football terrorist to football terrorist to football terrorist. I understand. You know what I'm saying?
He was flawless. We were there, Jose, and then into Ollie. The amount of times it was so hard to watch. I get it. But a question I've got, right, is where was this energy where is this energy from Spurs fans at the start of the season? Because at the start of I get you love your club, and I don't want Forms to do a diss track about me or anything like that when I say this. And I get that fans always pick up their club, right? It's actually a very. I don't know much about rap, but that was actually pretty. You must have seen it, Flawless.
I've not watched it in full. I've seen it pop up on my timeline.
It was good.
I didn't click it open. Was it good? I've not watched it.
I mean, again, there was some. The only bit I didn't like, he had a go at Troops for being in his 30s. I thought that was a little harsh, personally. But that's a personal thing. But yeah, look, there's always just. I think the reason Spurs get cooked a lot at the moment is because there's so much noise, energy, chest at the beginning of seasons. What do you say to that, Jess? Because there's videos that are going to be dropping tomorrow that I'm putting out. Someone sent me from a guy on TikTok who, the way he was talking about Arsenal in the summer, about how you're only going to sign players like Ben White, we're going to go on to next levels, we're going to leave you behind, we'll catch up with City in that this year. That's the kind of attitude from a lot of Tottenham fans every summer. And then when it starts falling apart, you hear the squad's terrible, we've been bad for years, we've been exposed again. Why don't you think Spurs fans are just a bit more honest with where they really sit?
I don't know, man. I don't understand Tottenham fans. I really don't, because it's like, just be quiet, like, until you do something. Like, you know what I mean? I even feel similar about like Arsenal fans a little bit too. Like, almost like jump the gun a little bit too much, get excited about things that you really shouldn't be getting excited about. And the constant like, oh, we finished over Arsenal, so what? So what? Like, finishing over us in our worst period is not anything. And so winning transfer windows and things that, clubs or fans have never celebrated before are all of a sudden celebrated for Tottenham. Like, I don't understand. And so I don't know. I don't get it. We kind of said this at the beginning of the season that like, yeah, your window was okay, but you still are kind of in the same position. Everything behind Kane and Son is kind of average, and everybody's fighting me for saying that. But then now you guys turn up midway through the season and say, yeah, you're right. So I don't know, like, if it's just feeling defensive because you want to back your club at the beginning, even when people are speaking facts. But now it's kind of come back around and everybody's acting like they always knew it, but you are fighting us. So I don't know. Spurs fans are very special, a special group of fans. Like, they're just different. I've never seen it before. Like, it's wild. And I know Arsenal fans are annoying, but at least we've won something. Like, at least we've won a little bit. It's so weird. But I remember George was about to fight us at the beginning of the season because Arsenal were looking good and we're title contenders and you guys were up there as well and you guys were getting all bent out of shape. But that's because everybody could see that you guys weren't that good and it was unsustainable. Like, do you know what I mean? Now you guys are saying it was unsustainable. It's just weird that it's like come around. You guys are saying things we said in August. It's weird. Y'all are special. You know,
I don't think
that's a
it
very
was
polite insult, by the way.
unsustainability
I just wanted to
killed
say
us,
that.
though.
Very polite insult. You are a special group.
Yeah, no,
Very
What
polite.
this, man, George, you go- you-
I
you got this,
personally,
George.
I don't
Are you
think
gonna accept that, George? Are you gonna accept
No,
that?
I don't think it's the unsustainability that killed us. What killed us is a lot of the big players that we relied on just haven't turned up. I mean, last season, the back end of last season, we were optimistic going into the season because Son had one of his best seasons ever. Kulu was firing on all fronts. Bentancur, Dyer was looking better than he ever had, and he got his first England call-up for a reason. And so did Hugo Lloris, had his best season in about 4 or 5 years. So we had a lot of players in great form that were pushing hard, and we thought they were going to take this into the season. No one can predict that Lloris is going to go 5-6 errors leading to goals and then get an injury. Dyer goes back to his poor old self. And yeah, we did have these issues and we all recognize them. Defensively, there was always going to be a problem, but it just got progressively worse as the season gone on because Son still hasn't turned up. Kulu's been good, but just not good enough. Kane, again, just he doesn't get the job done when we need him to. And so, yeah,
but what you can predict, though, George, is like,
but
you're saying it was unpredictable, so it's not the unsustainability, but that's literally what it is. It's if Son and Kane and these players that you guys hype up and put on pedestals don't perform, you have nothing to fall back on. You don't have other players or, you know, a system that works without those players playing at the peak of their powers. And so it was predictable, it was unsustainable, and literally what you've said has just backed up my point.
No, because just any big team, if you lose your best players, or your best players are out of form, you're going to drop off heavily. Let's not lie. Son, his goals literally carried us into the top 4 last season. He scored 18 goals between January and May. Like, there's no taking that away. This season, he's scored 4 or 5 goals. Like, no one can sit there and say, oh, yeah, even without Son, are you going to be good? Son's been good for 5 seasons, 6 seasons straight. No one's going to predict that he's going to fall off as heavy as he did. And we've had a few players fall off heavy since last season. And that's why since coming back from the World Cup, the team's just not picked up. We've not looked good enough, as well as having a manager who, as the season's gone on, just doesn't really look too interested. He doesn't look like he wants to stay at Tottenham. I'm just confused
about that, though, George, because, I mean, yeah, we all know that if you lose significant players, you're going to drop away, but not to the level that you guys dropped away. I mean, good teams have players that don't play, but you don't fall away the way that Spurs have. Like, everything that you guys were doing was just basically like hoping that Son and Kane would replicate that form, but there was never anything foundationally behind it. Arsenal haven't had Jesus since like November, but we haven't like fallen apart. Manchester United didn't have Casemiro for 3 games. They didn't fall down. Like, I feel like that's a cheap way of like, unless you have Chelsea level, unless you have Chelsea level, like, or Liverpool level, like injury lists, where if you've looked at theirs at several times during the season, they had like 11 players out, significant players. They have an excuse. You guys just have players that we've always known. If they don't show up, you're not going to perform.
We've had injuries.
So again,
I don't
it
like
was very predictable.
We've had a long-term injury to our best midfielder. We've had Romero, who's played half of the season. We've had Kulusevski, who's out for the start of the season. And also, you're acting like Tottenham's fall-off has still been like a massive fall-off. We finished 4th last season. Right now, we're in 4th. If we come out of the top 4, Tottenham ain't going to finish 7th or 8th or 9th. We might finish just below the position we did, probably a few points off of what we did last season. So isn't that Tottenham have fallen off heavily? It's just that what we expected Tottenham to be, we weren't as good as what we expected.
Wait, you don't think Tottenham could finish 7th? Tottenham could definitely finish like 7th or below.
We're not finishing 7th or below. No chance.
Look at the form you're going in. I mean, you're only getting worse.
I mean, the hype has fallen away. I think that's what we're talking about. It's like, because at the beginning, when you did your little monologue, you were the one who was saying that you guys were crap, you guys had fallen away. So I'm just echoing what you said. But the hype has really dwindled. It's not
from
really,
my expectations, though, Jess. Because I said, you know, and I know my expectations were high, and I'm not going to sit here and deny.
George, what were your expectations at the start of the season? What
I expected to win a trophy and finish at least top 3, not top 4.
Silly.
And that's where it is. But I understand because Spurs fans did get gas because you lot had Conte and signed players. That's why I heard people say Spurs can finish top 3, Spurs top 2, Spurs title challenges. That was never going to happen. Their window was nowhere near as good as people made it out to be. Their team is nowhere near as good as people made it out to be, and we're seeing that now. This is why this isn't a surprise. If you look at Conte everywhere he's been, he kicks up a fuss. We know this. It always ends in tears. Normally, you get a trophy. You know how the film's gonna end with Conte. You know the building's gonna burn, but you expect a trophy within that. But it's not happened. That's why if you talk to certain Chelsea fans, they love him. But there's a lot of Chelsea fans who I talk to who despise him because of what he did there and how he'll kick up a fuss as soon as things don't go his way. Like you heard the way he was talking when you lot played in the Champions League away, the AC Milan away game, and he was talking about how he wants to stay in Italy type thing and stuff like that. After the Burnley game, where he literally threw in the towel and said, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. You don't want someone like that leading you. He's way too emotional. He's way, way, way too. And then on top of being emotional, his football don't fit. That pragmatic style now doesn't work at top level football. You know what I'm saying? You have to be proactive. That's why I didn't understand all the gas. And like I've said before, his European record is horrendous and people sweep it under the rug. Look at some of the groups that he finished bottom of with Inter Milan.
He's only had one UCL knockout win. Since 2013.
I mean, Graham Potter has equaled that record of his now. It's crazy.